I am sitting across from a loan officer right now, trying very hard not to let my tears fall. And I need you to understand something. It is not the denial that is doing this to me. My loan got denied. Loan denials happen. They can be disputed, explained, resolved. No, what is sitting behind my eyes and pressing against the back of my throat, what is making me grip the edge of this desk while I smile politely at this young man who cannot quite look me in the eye, is the reason for the denial. The reason is what has taken everything I thought I knew about my life and quietly, completely rearranged it while I was sitting here trying to apply for a home repair loan on a Tuesday morning in October. I want to flip this table, by the way. I just want to put that out there. I am not going to do it, but the thought has absolutely occurred to me. My name is Elena Grant. I am 34 years old. I live in Savannah, Georgia. I work 2 jobs, I pay every bill on time, and I came to this bank for something straightforward and simple. What I got instead was the discovery that someone I trusted completely, with my name and my future and my whole heart, had been using that trust against me for 2 years without losing a single night of sleep over it. I am more angry than I am heartbroken right now. And I think that is the only reason I am still upright. The heartbreak is coming. I can feel it waiting for me at home, patient and enormous. But right now, what I am running on is fury. The specific kind that comes from realizing you have been carefully and deliberately deceived by someone who looked you in the eye every single morning and said good morning like it was nothing. Let me tell you what happened. To understand any of this, you need to understand Caleb first, and you need to understand Daniel, and you need to understand a woman named Camille Mercer, because all 3 of them are the reason I am sitting here telling you this story. Caleb Grant came into my life 5 years ago at a mutual friend's backyard cookout and was immediately, effortlessly the most likable person there. The kind of man who remembered what you were drinking before you had to ask, who followed up 2 weeks later on something you had mentioned in passing once, who had the particular gift of making everyone he talked to feel like the most interesting person in the room. To make the long story short, we fell in love and got married. I manage a retail clothing store here in Savannah, and I am good at it. 3 profitable years running, clean numbers, steady staff. In the evenings, I work a second job from home doing order entry and customer service, answering emails and processing orders from my kitchen table with no phone calls involved, which is a workplace detail I will never take for granted. Between the 2 jobs, I earned well, considerably more than Caleb, who worked as an office clerk at a property management company downtown and had been in the same position for 13 years with no particular desire to change that. He knew his lane. He stayed in it. I never made him feel small for it, and I carried most of our finances without complaint, because that is what you do when you love someone and you are building a life together. His best friend was Daniel Mercer, and I want to say something careful about Daniel because he deserves it. They had grown up 3 houses apart, same street, same schools, same everything, and Daniel was a genuinely good man in the way that some people just are, bones deep and without effort. He coached youth baseball on Saturday mornings. Daniel was married to Camille Mercer. And Camille, from the very first dinner the 4 of us had together, from the very first time I sat across a table from her, never sat right with me. There was nothing I could name, nothing I could point to and call evidence. It was smaller than that. The way her eyes found Caleb when she entered a room just a half second before they found anyone else. The warmth in her voice when she said his name, just a degree too warm. The way she held his gaze in conversation just a fraction longer than the moment called for. Tiny things, individually meaningless, but they accumulated over 3 years into a feeling I could not shake and kept talking myself out of because I did not want to be that wife. The suspicious one, the insecure one, the one who invented problems where there were none. Ladies, and I say this with the full weight of painful personal experience, if something sits wrong, it is usually sitting wrong for a reason. Trust the feeling. I am genuinely begging you. Daniel got sick 18 months into my marriage. Aggressive cancer, the kind that does not negotiate. He was gone in 7 months. That was 3 years ago now. Caleb was at the hospital every day he could manage, and at the funeral he wept in a way I had never seen him weep. Quietly and steadily, like something structural had given way inside him. And I held his hand through the whole service and thought, this is what real grief looks like. After Daniel died, Caleb began checking on Camille, calling her, going by her place, helping with practical things. He said Daniel had asked him to look after her. He said she had no one. He said it was what Daniel would have wanted. I believed every word of it. I supported it completely. Then October came, and with it a storm that had very strong opinions about which houses in Savannah deserved to remain standing. My father's house, old, stubborn, and deeply beloved, lost a section of the roof overnight. Water got into the walls. I put a bucket under the bedroom ceiling and called a contractor named Ray Hendricks, who had been doing roofing work in Savannah for over 20 years. He assessed the damage, came back down, and gave me the face of a man about to ruin someone's week. $20,000. The damaged section was original to my father's construction and needed to be replaced properly this time, not patched again. $20,000, and he could start whenever I was ready. I needed a loan. I banked at a place that handled everything, checking, savings, and they had an online lending arm too, mortgages included, the kind of bank that had moved with the times. They also had physical branches, which is where I preferred to go for anything important. The branch closest to me happened to be managed by Holly Paulson, a girl I had gone to high school with. We weren't close enough that I'd call her for coffee, but familiar enough that seeing her face behind a desk felt comfortable. I didn't want to bother her, though. She was a manager, she was busy. I would just go in and handle it through the regular channels like a normal person. I made the appointment for Tuesday morning. The storm had taken out more than just my roof. The mall where my store was located had sustained enough structural damage that management shut everything down for repairs, which meant no shifts until further notice. I was home, which under normal circumstances would have felt like a gift, except that normal circumstances did not currently include a bucket under the bedroom ceiling and a 5-figure repair quote sitting on the kitchen counter. I was grateful, at least, for the part-time job. Order entries and customer emails from my kitchen table, steady and quiet and completely unaffected by whatever the weather decided to do. It kept me occupied during those strange slow days after the storm when the city was still assessing itself. On the second evening I sat down with Caleb and told him what Ray had quoted, $20,000. I said I was planning to apply for a home repair loan, good credit, equity in the house, documented income. It should be straightforward. He listened, he nodded, and then he said something that I filed away at the time under the category of unhelpful but not alarming. Maybe we could wait a little bit, he said. You know, I just don't want you stressing yourself out over a loan right now, he said. I looked at him. The ceiling is leaking, Caleb, I said. We can't wait. You'll help me with the payments, right? You don't have any outstanding loans, so your credit is clean either way. And here's where Caleb did something I noticed and then immediately talked myself out of noticing. He fumbled. Not dramatically, not obviously, but there was a half-second where something moved behind his eyes, a brief recalibration before he said, I'm not sure I can fully commit to the payments right now. Things are just a little tight. Caleb, I said, you don't have any loans. What exactly is tight? He paused. Then he said, of course, yes, I'll help, you're right. And he moved the conversation somewhere else in that smooth, easy way he had, and I let him move it because the answer had been yes, and I had a repair to organize, and I had, as I always did, given him the benefit of the doubt. 4 days after the storm, on a Tuesday morning, I finished a few hours of work at the kitchen table, got dressed, and told Caleb I was heading to the bank. He kissed me on the cheek. He said he was heading to work. I left first. I drove to that bank thinking about roofing timelines and monthly payment estimates and nothing else, because that is genuinely all I believed my morning was going to be about. The loan officer's name was Trevor. Young, polite, slightly too much collar for his neck, and visibly uncomfortable in the particular way of someone who has been handed a task they did not sign up for. He pulled up my profile, ran my credit, and his expression did the thing that expressions do when they encounter something unexpected. A brief stillness, a small reorientation, before he looked at me with the careful, measured delivery of someone choosing their words very deliberately. "Miss Grant," he said, "I'm showing several delinquent accounts under your name that are significantly affecting your credit score." "I don't have any delinquent accounts," I said. "I don't have any outstanding loans at all." He turned the monitor toward me. 4 loans, all delinquent, all opened within the last 2.5 years, all carrying my name and my social security number with a confidence I had not given them. 3 personal loans, $8,000, $12,000, $20,000, all past due, all accumulating late fees quietly in corners I had not known existed. And then the 4th one, at the bottom of the list, the one that made the air leave the room entirely. A mortgage loan. $212,000 originated through the bank's own online lending platform for a property at 44117 Callaway Street. Monthly payment of $1,240, withdrawn automatically from the joint account Caleb and I shared every single month, appearing in our transaction history under the label Home Services, Auto, which I had been looking at for 2 years and had never once questioned because it was boring and domestic and looked exactly like something reasonable. 2 years. I asked Trevor to print the original applications. He did. I went through every page, my name, my social security number, my date of birth, my employment information, all of it filled in with the accuracy of someone who had complete access to everything about me. And at the bottom of every single page, my signature. My actual signature, the one I have been writing the same way since I was 17 years old, reproduced so precisely that I understood immediately this had not been guessed. It had been practiced. I had not signed a single one of these documents. Then I looked at the disbursement account details on the mortgage application, the account where the loan funds had been deposited after approval. An account number I didn't recognize, and next to it, the name of the account holder. I set the page down. I picked it back up. I read the name again. Then I set it down, and I sat completely still while my body understood something my mind was still catching up to. I looked at Trevor. "I need to file a fraud dispute," I said, and my voice came out so flat, and even that it surprised both of us. "And is Holly Paulson available? She manages this branch. I went to high school with her. I'm sorry to bother her, but I think I need someone I know right now." Trevor nodded immediately, clearly relieved to hand this to someone with more experience, and went to get her. Holly came out from the back office, took one look at my face, and said simply, "Come to my office." She closed the door, and I held it together. Barely, the way you hold something together when the alternative is falling completely apart in a place you cannot afford to, while she went through everything, asked careful questions, and confirmed what I already knew in my bones. "Elena," she said when she was done, "this is fraud. The bank is required to open a formal investigation and report this to the police. I don't have any discretion over that. It's mandatory." She paused. "But I am going to personally make sure everything is handled correctly. You have my word on that." I nodded. I was very close to crying and very determined not to, which is an exhausting combination. She gathered everything into a folder and slid it across to me. Then she reached into her desk drawer and placed something else on the desk between us. A business card, small and cream-colored, set down quietly the way you pass something to a friend. Clara Gilbert, Family Law and Financial Litigation. I don't know if you want to leave and sue them both, but if you do, call her. She's expensive, Holly said, but she will bury them. I picked up the card. I picked up the folder. I thanked Holly in a voice that did not entirely sound like mine, and I walked out of that bank and got into my car. I sat there for a moment looking at the address on the mortgage application, 4417 Callaway Street. I thought about going straight home. I thought about being rational. I thought about taking a breath and processing this like a sensible adult. Then I started the car. Callaway Street was 20 minutes from my house, 20 minutes from my father's house, with its bucket under the leaking bedroom ceiling and its $20,000 problem. and it was a quiet, well-kept residential block with old trees and tidy yards and the particular stillness of a neighborhood that had been exactly itself for a very long time. Number 44117 was a pale yellow craftsman with a covered front porch and new gutters and flower boxes under both front windows. Tended flower boxes, the kind that somebody waters consistently, that somebody chose because they wanted a house to look like a home. There was a car in the driveway. I pulled to the curb across the street and I looked at that car and I felt something in my chest go very cold, very quickly. His blue Honda, the small dent on the rear bumper from the parking garage 2 winters ago. The car I had helped him make the final payment on. The car he had driven away from our house this morning when he told me he was going to work. I picked up my phone and hit record before I had fully decided to, because some part of me was already thinking more clearly than the rest of me. Then the front door opened and Caleb walked out onto the porch in a t-shirt and jeans. Not work clothes, not anything he would have worn to the office, and came down the steps to the mailbox with the completely unhurried ease of a man who was exactly where he intended to be. He went through the mail. He went back inside. He did not look across the street once. I stopped recording. I checked the footage. Clear. I want to be honest with you about what I was feeling as I got out of that car and walked across that street, because honesty is the whole point of this story. I was not calm. There was a very significant part of me that wanted to do things I will not describe in detail on this channel, because the only people who were going to end up in any legal difficulty were the 2 people in that house, and I was not going to be the one who handed them a way out. I had not done anything wrong. I was not going to start now. So I walked up those porch steps and knocked on the door like a woman who had every right to be there, which, as it turned out, I absolutely did, because my name was on the mortgage. The door opened and Camille Mercer stood there in a robe with her hair loose and a coffee cup in her hand. She looked at me and moved through several emotions very quickly. Surprise first, then recognition, and then something underneath both of those that looked like a reckoning she had always known was coming and had simply been hoping would be delayed. "Elena," she said. "I'd like to come in," I said. She shifted slightly, filling the doorway. "This is Camille," I said, and something in my voice made her stop mid-sentence. "My name is on the mortgage of this house, so before you finish that sentence, I would think very carefully about what word you put at the end of it." She didn't answer. I put my hand on the door and pushed it open. She stepped back, and I stepped inside. The entry hall was bright and freshly kept, new pale hardwood floors, a coat rack with a jacket I recognized hanging on it, men's shoes near the door that I also recognized. His jacket, his shoes, in a house with my name on the deed, paid for with money pulled from my joint account, built on a foundation of my forged signature. "Hey," Camille's voice found an edge. "You can't just walk in here." "And yet," I said pleasantly, and I walked through into the living room. It was a nice room. Good light, comfortable furniture, a rug someone had chosen thoughtfully, books on the shelves that looked actually read. The kind of room that takes time to become itself, that accumulates over months and years of 2 people making a space their own. And on the mantel above the fireplace, photographs. Caleb and Camille at the coast, easy and laughing and completely unguarded. Caleb and Camille in this living room, his arm around her head tilted toward him. Caleb and Camille arranged on that mantel like a record of a life, a whole life, that had been quietly happening while I was home checking bank statements and working 2 jobs and looking at a line item that said home services, auto, and thinking absolutely nothing of it. I was still looking at those photographs when I heard a door open down the hallway. "Cam, honey, who is it?" he said, his voice, warm and casual and completely at home, and that honey landed somewhere in my chest in a way I had to consciously absorb before I turned around. Caleb came around the corner with a mug in his hand and saw me and stopped walking completely. For one entirely unguarded moment, his face showed me exactly what he was. A man caught so thoroughly that the news hadn't reached his expression yet. "Hi, Caleb," I said, and my voice cracked slightly on his name, and I let it crack because I was not going to perform composure I did not have. Aren't you supposed to be at work? Elena, he set the mug down. Just let me. I reached out and picked up the nearest photograph from the mantel. The beach one. The two of them laughing, the ocean behind them. A whole vacation I had never known about. Is this what it was for? My voice was raised now. Not yelling. I had decided I was not going to yell, but raised the way a voice gets when it is carrying more than it was built for. You went into my personal information and opened loans in my name without my knowledge. You forged my signature on a mortgage application. You made payments from our joint account for 2 years for a house I did not know existed. You did all of that for this? I held the frame out over the hardwood floor and I opened my hand. The glass shattered. Camille made a sharp sound. Caleb flinched. I was helping her, Caleb said, reaching for the version of this he had clearly rehearsed at some point. Elena, after Daniel died, she had nothing. She had no one. I was just trying to help her get back on her feet. And sleeping with her was also part of the support package? I said. The room went quiet. Camille stepped forward, her voice gone cold. You need to leave, she said. I want you out of this house right now, or I'm calling the police. I looked at her. I looked at her standing there in Daniel's last name in my house, telling me to leave it. And I reached up and took another photograph off the mantel. Go ahead, I said. Please. I am genuinely, sincerely asking you to do that. I opened my hand. It hit the floor and shattered. Elena, stop it. Caleb's voice had hardened. That is enough. I put my hand on the third frame. I held it there and I looked at him, and I let the silence stretch until it had said everything I needed it to say. Then I set it down carefully, gently actually, and I straightened up and looked at him, at the face I had woken up next to for 4 years, and I felt the full weight of it, all of it at once. I'm leaving, I said, but before I do, the bank is opening a fraud investigation as of this morning. Everything is documented. The police will be involved. I want a divorce, Caleb. I paused. Come by tomorrow and collect your things. Whatever you leave behind goes in trash bags on the porch. Elena, please. His voice reached for something softer. Please don't do this. Camille doesn't have anywhere else to go. I thought about Daniel, about his chest-deep laugh and his Saturday baseball games and his 7 months of dying in a hospital bed while the 2 people he trusted most in the world were doing this behind his back. I will see both of you in court, I said. And I want to be very clear. There is no apology from either of you at any point that is going to change a single thing about what comes next. I will never let this slide. I turned around and I walked out of that house and down those porch steps and across the street to my car, and I got in, and I closed the door, and I drove home. I cried in the bedroom for a long time, the real kind. No composure, no performance, just the full weight of it coming down all at once. Because the truth is that you do not stop loving someone the moment you find out who they really are. The love does not disappear when the betrayal is revealed. It just becomes something painful you carry while you figure out how to put yourself back together. I cried until there was nothing left. Then I got up, washed my face, and went to the hall closet for the trash bags. I started in the bedroom closet because that was where most of his clothes were. I did not fold anything. I grabbed and bagged and tied and moved because moving felt better than thinking. I grabbed a stack of his clothes from the back of the shelf and something fell. Not one thing, several things, sliding out from between the folded clothes and landing on the closet floor in a scattered pile. I looked down at them and I stood there without moving. Envelopes, more than a dozen of them, white envelopes and one printed in red, the particular red of a final notice, my name on every single one. I knelt down and opened one, past due notice. My name, a loan I had not known existed until that morning. I opened another and another. Demand notices, late payment warnings, final notices, my name on all of them, for debts I never agreed to, for money I never borrowed. Stupid. He had not thrown them away. He had hidden them here, under his clothes, in my father's house. He had been intercepting them from the mailbox every morning, which is why he always went out to get the mail first, which I had never once questioned. And instead of destroying the evidence, he had buried it in the back of his own closet. Like a man who could not fully commit to the lie even while he was living it. I thought about the feeling I had carried for 3 years every time Camille was in the same room as Caleb. That thing I could never name. I had talked myself out of it every single time, so afraid of being the suspicious wife that I overrode the one instinct that was actually trying to protect me. I should have trusted it, but I made that choice out of love, and I am not going to spend the rest of my life punishing myself for that. I put the letters in the folder with everything Holly had printed. I finished the trash bags, carried them to the porch, stacked them by the front door. Then I went inside, made a cup of coffee, and picked up Clara Gilbert's card. Expensive, Holly had said, but she will bury them. I picked up my phone and called. Clara Gilbert's office communicated competence without announcing it. She was in her mid-50s, silver-haired, precise in the way of someone who had heard every version of the situation and remained exact about all of them. She went through my documents without expression. She read everything twice. Then she set her glasses down and looked at me. The mortgage was originated through the bank's online platform, she said. Digital access logs, IP address, device, timestamp, combined with the disbursement account in your husband's name and your documented presence at the branch that same morning, this is a strong fraud case. The forged signatures add criminal exposure. This is prosecutable. What about the house? I asked. The bank will move to reclaim it. Mortgage voided, whoever is living there evicted, not by you, but by the bank. Something in her expression shifted almost imperceptibly, which is considerably more humiliating. I appreciated that about Clara immediately. I want to be clear about how this works, she continued. There are 3 separate things happening at once. The criminal case, forgery, identity theft, wire fraud, the DA handles that, not us. The civil suit for your financial damages, that is us. And the divorce, which we file separately. 3 tracks, all running at the same time. And Camille? She knowingly benefited from fraud. She is not walking away from this cleanly. She slid the retainer across the desk. I looked at the number and kept my face very still. Is there a payment arrangement available? I asked. Installments, she said. Remainder due from the settlement. She paused. I am not doing this as a favor. I expect to win, and when we win, you will be made whole. That is how I work. I picked up the pen and signed my name, my real signature, the one that belonged to me. The civil papers were served to both of them at the Calloway Street house. Together. I was told Caleb opened the door, saw the process server, and went completely pale. Camille came up behind him, looked at the papers over his shoulder, and started crying right there in the doorway, the same doorway where she had told me to get out of her house, where she had threatened to call the police on me. Now she was standing in it with shaking hands, reading her own name on a civil lawsuit. I would be lying if I said I felt nothing when I heard that. Months later, the divorce was finalized. That one closed first. Clean, final, done. I signed the last of the paperwork and walked out of that office and stood on the sidewalk for a moment and breathed. That chapter of my life was over. Then came the conviction. Caleb was found guilty on multiple counts: forgery, identity theft, wire fraud. His employer let him go before the ink was even dry, because a property management company does not keep an employee with a fraud record, and they did not hesitate. 13 years in that office, gone in a week. The bank moved to reclaim the Calloway Street property shortly after. Camille received her eviction notice not from me, but from the bank. A representative who did not know her name, did not care about her situation, handed her the paperwork and left. She had nowhere to go. She had never built anything entirely her own, never learned to stand without leaning on someone else first, and now the someone else had nothing left to offer her. I try not to think about them, not out of mercy, just because they are no longer worth the space. The financial judgment gave me back what had been taken. Every cent went into my father's house. The roof went first. Ray Hendricks came back and did the job properly, and I stood in the backyard afterward and looked up at it and felt something settle in me that had been unsettled for a very long time. I want to renovate the rest someday, every room, every corner, made entirely mine. The future instead of the past. Caleb texted me once, after everything, a long apology. I'm so sorry, Elena. I never meant for any of this. I hope you can forgive me someday, blah, blah, blah. I read it. I felt everything. The anger, the grief, and underneath both of them, faint and stubborn, the love that had not quite finished dying yet. I put my phone down. I did not reply. Camille texted me too, just once. She said she was sorry, that she was scared, that she never wanted things to go this far. Blah, 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 whatever. I read that one too. I put my phone down. I did not reply to that one either. I am not healed. I will not pretend otherwise. But I am teaching myself, slowly and on my own timeline, to let it go. And on the days when it is hard, I remind myself of one thing. I found out. Some people never do. My father's house is still standing. I am still standing. That is enough to build on.
If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and drop a comment below. Don't forget to follow for more content just like this. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.